प्रणमामि हरिः। नीलाचलनिवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो दीनतारिणम्। 6:10 today. Okay, so this one is not. Can you get me a physical copy of Bhagavad Gita? Net is not coming. 'योगी युञ्जीत सततम् आत्मनां रहसि स्थितः एकाकीयत चित्तात्मा निरासेरपरिग्रहः'. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Krishna is realized in different degrees as Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna consciousness means concisely to be always engaged in the service of or in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. But those who are attached to the impersonal Brahman or to the localized super soul are also partially Krishna conscious, because the impersonal Brahman is the spiritual ray of Krishna and the super soul is the all-pervading partial expansion of Krishna. Thus, the impersonalist and the meditator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. A directly Krishna conscious person is the topmost transcendentalist, because such a devotee knows what is meant by Brahman and Paramatma. His knowledge of the absolute truth is perfect, whereas the impersonalist and the meditative yogi are imperfectly Krishna conscious. Nevertheless, all of these are herewith instructed herewith to be constantly engaged in their particular pursuits so that they may come to the highest perfection sooner or later. The first business of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. One should always think of Krishna and not forget him even for a moment. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme is called samadhi or trance. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external objects. He should be very careful to accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions that affect his realization. And in perfect determination, he should not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness. All these perfections and precautions are perfectly executed when one is directly in Krishna consciousness. Because direct Krishna consciousness means self abnegation, wherein there is very little chance for material possessiveness. Srila Rupa Goswami characterizes Krishna consciousness in this way. Anasaktasya vishayan yatharaham upayunjitaha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate प्रापंचीकतया बुद्धिया हरिसंबंधी वस्तुनः मुमुक्षुभिः परित्यागो वैराग्यम फाल्गु कथ्यते. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. A Krishna conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna, and thus he is always free from feelings of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He is always aloof from material things because he is always transcendental. And he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi. Hmm. Srila Prabhupada speaks about how the Supreme Lord can be realized in three stages: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The Brahman and the Paramatma realization are partial Krishna consciousness. Whereas the stage of a devotee is more complete, his understanding, his concepts are more complete. And by default, he has understanding of the Super Soul, and he has understanding the all-pervading expansion of Krishna. And he has understanding of the impersonal Brahman, the spiritual ray of Krishna. So, by the entire structure of how the various yoga processes, how the various goals in the various yoga processes are described by the Lord, we can see very well the Lord's attitude towards the living entity. Although the living entity in this material world is having an attitude of envy towards the Lord, by the arrangements which the Lord has done for us, we can see that the various yoga systems, we can see that the Lord's attitude is that of favoring the living entity in any and every possible way. Why favoring? Because we can see that now, these three stages of realization of God, we can see that Krishna is not a very result oriented personality. The Lord is not excessively result oriented. The Lord is satisfied seeing a forward directionality of motion. That's all. That okay, this living entity, this body, this soul is coming towards me. And the Lord acknowledges that. And a matter of acknowledging that is Brahman realization platform, wherein Krishna is not even present. The Brahman realization, the Krishna is not even present. It is just the spiritual ray of Krishna. It is just the negation of the material world and the material concepts. But the Lord is acknowledging that, the Brahman, such a person is coming to me. Paramatma, where the Lord's qualities, the Lord's nature is not at all manifest, because it's Paramatma is the guide. Paramatma is the channelizer. Paramatma is a sanctioner. Paramatma is a personality who blesses. Is it not? The personality who warns. That's Paramatma. But one doesn't get to understand the qualities, the nature of the Lord. So if you try to see Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, in Brahman, the aspect of Godhead is completely hidden in one sense. It's just not material, that's all it is, but it's nothing spiritual. Is it not? But the Lord is acknowledging that. From this we can try to understand that the Lord is very much in favor of the living entity. So the Lord just wants to see even little bit proclivity, and the Lord gives the passing marks. So the Lord wants to pass. The Lord is in favor. Had the Lord not been in favor, you would have seen the criteria would have been much more stringent. The criteria are very peaceful, is it not? Somebody speaks any kind of philosophy, he by default lands in the mode of goodness, is it not? Obviously, the philosophy should not be sensual or sexual like Sigmund Freud and all that. That's animalism. But then, a little bit one does analysis, little bit one looks around nature here, there. By default, he comes in mode of goodness. The concepts of the Lord are very much in favor of the living entity. We can see the attitude of the Lord behind how the Vedic concepts are. So here the Lord is explaining a transcendentalist should see that he should have engagement at the level of the body, he should have engagement at the level of the mind, he should have engagement at the level of the self. Engagement at the level of the self when we chant the holy names, when we attend kirtan programs, when we hear Krishna Katha, is it not? Engagement at the level of the mind when we chant the Krishna Katha, when we meditate on service, when we make plans for the service, when we offer heartfelt feelings, express heartfelt feelings of prayer, servitude towards the Lord. That's engagement at the level of the mind. Engagement at the level of the body when we do physical services, deity worship, cooking, etc. So the Lord is explaining that one has to engage himself on these multiple tiers actually. So therefore you will see the Lord's presentation here about Ashtanga Yoga. You will see Ashtanga has both these components. Ashtanga has a physical component, which is more popularly called as Hatha Yoga. You do asana, it's a physical component. And it has a meditative component, which is the psychophysical component, the psychological component. And that's called a Dhyana Yoga. That's basically called a Dhyana Yoga. The Dhyan, Dharana, Samadhi. So it has both these aspects. Similarly, Bhakti should have both these aspects. The principle of Bhakti, practice of Bhakti should have both these aspects. One should not be mechanically engaged. At the same time, one should have some physical engagements. Both are needed. So now the Lord starts describing such a yogi now. A yogi has to very carefully control his mind. So the Lord is describing now here, a yogi has to very carefully control his mind. So, and then the Lord explains he should live alone in a secluded place. Yes. The Acharyas explain the meaning of the word secluded. Ekantam. Secluded means free from distractions. Secluded means focused. So it's not static equilibrium, it's dynamic equilibrium. It means focused, engaged in one point, focus. So ekanta means that which has only one anta, one pointed, focused goal. That's called as ekanta. Acharyas explain this. Ekanta means only one anta, one goal, one focused goal actually. That's called as secluded. One should stay in a secluded place. So this material world is so arranged that one doesn't have to create anything new actually. What is existing, one just picks and chooses. If you see, much of our life depends on what we pick and choose. What we pick and choose. If you pick the right settings, the right people, then we have the right orientation. But if you pick up the wrong settings and the wrong people, we have a messed up orientation. Is it not? Pick and choose. There are multitudes of aspects available, but what exactly we relate with is is our choice. And what choice we have will decide our future. So there is all kinds of variety available because this material world is complete. There are all kinds of complete varieties available, is it? All around. Like say when we talk to eatables, when we talk about eatables, and all possible eatables are available, is it not? The organic foodstuffs are available, fruits, milk is available, non-veg is available, everything is available, intoxication is available, everything is available. So what we choose, what we pick up, will decide the track what we are working on. Similarly, we see it's like an university setup, company setup, institution setup, all kinds of mentalities of people are there. There are people who are very dirty. There are people who are very sober. There are people who are spiritually very inclined. There are people who are spiritually intense. All kinds of varieties. Whom do we choose? It's our choice. To be with, to relate with. So, this is the point. So the Lord is talking about place, the Lord is talking about settings because the Lord is talking about that much of it, much of your spiritual life very much depends on what you pick up. You pick up the wrong things, unnecessarily you are adding difficulty in your practice. You pick up the right things, automatically things will start becoming easier. So the reciprocation with God happens in this way. That introduction is Krishna's uh, responsibility. The Lord makes sure that we get introduced to the right thing. Picking up is our responsibility. So the Lord reciprocates with us by introducing us, and we can reciprocate back by picking it up. Like that. Like most of us were loitering around here and there in IIT hostels, IIT campus, and the Lord introduced us to the process of Krishna consciousness. Is it not? We didn't run for it, chase for it. Is it not? We got introduced. So that's the Lord's calling. You see, it's the Lord's calling. It's the Lord's investment of love. It's the Lord's reciprocation. And our reciprocation will be what we picked it up. Is it not? चलो introduce हो गया अच्छा लग रहा है you know we can keep it in my heart, my life. Is it not? I can install it in my settings. So our calling, is it not? So in the same context, you know, so this the Lord is substantiating when the Lord says, "Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena maam prayanti te." It is the same thing. The Lord is telling what you need is my responsibility. I will introduce you. Because you need to know a concept to be able to pick it up, is it not? So the Lord is telling that if you are engaged, if you want to move forward, I will introduce you to more sincere formats, how to move on, in what setting, I will introduce you. But whether to pick up or not, that is your free will, is it not? So many times we face discrepancies in our devotional service not because we don't know what to do, but because we don't commit to what has to be done, is it not? Much of our problems are because of that. Much of the discrepancies are because of that. People know what they are supposed to do, what is supposed to be done, what the Shastras are telling, what is solution, but they don't commit to that. They don't pick it up. And therefore that knowledge goes in vain, is it not? Because when the time of application was there, that knowledge was kept locked up. So that means that knowledge was of no use, is it not? It didn't come to any use because the person didn't pick it up. So this is a devotee. He picks up the right things, is it not? So what principle we pick up, what orientation we pick up, what attitude we pick up, that's how the things are. It's all a matter of picking up. Just like we hear Srila Raghunath Das Goswami picked up the principle of a very simple living, very simple living, very, very simple. He had picked up that principle. But he would offer, and he would offer thousands of obeisances every day. Like he would chant so many rounds, like he would offer so many obeisances. Fixed. It picked it up. Srila Gopala Bhatta Goswami had picked up the principle. He would never hear criticism of any devotee whatsoever, whatever be the case. No criticism, no hearing, no participation. Whatever be the case, whoever be the devotee in concern. So it's all a matter of picking up actually. And therefore, the Lord is explaining that in this way, if you are careful enough, when the Lord is saying that you should very carefully control the mind, the Lord is meaning here that the meaning is that you should very carefully pick up and choose what you want to keep with you, what you want to reject. So controlling the mind is all a matter of pickup, because you give the right kind of food or fodder to the mind, it orients in the right way. But you give a wrong kind of inputs to the mind, then it disorients in a wrong way. Yes. Prabhupada explains there are two reasons why people don't take. One is ignorance, second is stubborn obstinacy. So ignorance part is removed because the Lord gives opportunities again and again and again, many a times. But the stubborn obstinacy has to be removed from within. This is not just said for outside people, it is very much true for devotees of Krishna consciousness movement also. The stubborn obstinacy is what stagnates our spiritual lives. So it's the stubborn obstinacy uh, that one has just decided that he will not change. One has just decided that he will not, you know. So the wrong kind of things one has picked up. So therefore the Lord, so that has to come from within, you know. The Lord will give guidelines, the Lord will give the right direction, the Lord will make sure that the right kind of substance comes near you, but unless you pick it up, you take it up, it's not going to work forward. It's not going to work forward. Now, the process becomes very slow, is it not? That way. See, the point is Sukriti can get you introduced faster. The more the Sukriti, the more one can get introduced faster. But unless one commits, tangible advancement is not going to happen. Or unless one picks it up, tangible advancement will not happen. So just by the power of Sukriti, one cannot go back to Godhead. But one has a favorable disposition. One cannot go back to Godhead by that. Sukriti can get you to the right path. Ajamil had Sukriti. he had become so sinful. Because of that, Sukriti unknowingly named his son Narayan. And now, because now when he was in a messy and ghastly state, Ajamil, so this Ajamil, in this messy and ghastly state, so Ajamil was not promoted back to Godhead. The Vishnu Dutas came, but they didn't pick him up and took him to Godhead. They gave him a second chance. Yeah, you had some Sukriti. We are showing you the way now. Now you got the lesson. Work on it. Do your homework. He had to do homework for 12 years intensely. And when he purified and did his homework very nicely, then he was taken by the Vishnudutas, the same Vishnudutas. So you see the point. Sukriti can get one introduced again, but unless one commits, there is no tangible advancement. That principle has to be there. Therefore, the Lord is always talking about the principle of accepting the favorable, rejecting the unfavorable. And this principle has been talked in Bhakti Shastras by our Acharyas so prominently. Accepting the favorable, rejecting the unfavorable. What is favorable, we accept. What is unfavorable, we reject. Then the Lord explains that one has to be alone in a secluded place. So, now in the setting of Ashtanga, alone has a literal meaning, but in the setting of Bhakti, you see, alone means what? Alone means what? Every devotee should have an individual calling, individual contribution. That's the meaning of alone. Prabhupada would say that ultimately everyone has to fly his own plane. What do you mean flying his own plane? Flying his own plane means individual contribution, individual commitment. Like everyone has to chant himself, everyone has to do an individual contribution of service. That's alone. That okay, it's your drive. You are alone in that drive. Yes, you have all devotees around, help everything, atmosphere, but you have to do your role. Is it not? That's the meaning of alone. And then the Lord explains that such a person, he has to be free from feelings of possessiveness. Yeah. Material possessiveness. Prabhupada explains direct Krishna consciousness is self-abnegation, where there is very little chance for material possessiveness. Personal possession. The Lord explains that what one has is not very important, but what is more important is what is one doing with what he has. That's the principle which the Lord wants to see. That's the principle which the Lord wants to. That's the principle which reflects the state of the heart of the living entity. So attachment to material things is not dependent on whether one is rich or poor. A poor may be attached to his penny, and a rich man may be attached to his millions. The principle of attachment is the same. So the Lord is saying the attachment should not be a principle, offering should be a principle. So here the point is that whatever one has, one should offer it to the Supreme Lord. The entire materialistic vision makes it appear that possession is a prerequisite to service. Possession is a prerequisite for standing, for service, for moving forward. But actually, the fact is not the same. Possession is just a means to offer. If you have something, you can very well offer it. If you don't have it, anyways, no problem. What you have, you offer. So possession is a means, it's not a prerequisite. And if one makes possession as a prerequisite, he makes his mind most agitated by that. If you will see, this possessiveness is the most agitating drive, is one of the most agitating drives for the mind. People become possessive. People, like many times our devotees preach, but in the course of preaching, they become possessive on, with respect to people whom they preach to. And that leads to a lot of turmoil. Possessive. Similarly, one becomes possessive to the kind of comforts one is getting, then he may not be able to serve fervently. Possessiveness is the point. Uh, so if one feels this much facility, this much money I should get from the temple, this much money, this much facilities I should give from myself, even outside sitting also. So that means the more we make a requirement set for ourselves, the more we are the more we are actually falling trap to this aspect of possessiveness actually. So therefore you see the concept is so beautiful. The concept is you be focused on, so first of all pick the right things, be always careful to pick up the right things. Lord is explaining, the Lord says all you are alone. So first make sure that your individual contribution is proper or not. That should be a focus of every sadhaka, that my individual contribution is proper or not. And then along with that, whatever is easily you have in your in your hands, in your influence, use it to serve Krishna. Is it not? That's what the Lord explains. Whatever individually you have, you can use it to serve Krishna. Or whatever you can easily gather, you can gather that and use it to serve Krishna. Is it not? individual contribution. On a personal scale, one should be rendering service. Huh? After that, whatever you have, so if you get some people who are helping you out, you can engage all of them and improve or increase your service. But if not, then you yourself have to be fit properly, is it not? Because those things may change, is it not? Those aspects may change. If you have more money, you can make the offerings and service a little more elaborate. If you have less, still you should do it. That's the whole point, actually. That we don't keep things just dependent on material factors, is it not? We don't keep things too much dependent on material factors. Uh, we understand that the principle of offering service to Krishna is important. And this is not a blind sentimental the principle. It's like, you know, you'll see in material love also, when people get attached to a person, they're not worried about facilities and